All right, hello, Rich Fahle here. We're on the set of BookView now. We're at BookCon 2015. Incredible gathering of people. We have a new guest. We have Maggie Stiefvater, who's joining Leigh Bardugo, our guest host for the full hour. It's actually, we're creeping into that full hour now. I haven't talked about your earrings, by the way, which are quite cool.
I actually forgot what I was wearing, so that's nice.
They're very cool.
All right.
And Maggie's here. Maggie's new book is Pip Bartlett's Guide to Magical Creatures, which is very different from the other stuff you've done.
It's true.
But of course, we've talked about the Raven Cycle books before. We had Blue Lily, Lily Blue.
Yes. That's like a tongue twister. You have to try and say it 14 times
I think I just
fast.
messed it up,
It's
too.
Blue, Lily, Lily, Blue.
Blue Lily, Lily Blue.
There you go.
Great book, and it's really cool to have you here, first of all. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And I love that Leigh was like, can we talk to Maggie? Because I said, I know Maggie a little bit. I want her here again. But how do you guys know one another?
I actually proposed to her at LeakyCon.
She did, and I accepted,
Everything
of course.
happened at LeakyCon.
Maggie Stiefvater asked you to be her bride, you say yes.
That is the rule. Every time we are at LeakyCon, we are married. The sad thing is, I think they've renamed it, actually. So
now it's GeekyCon, and Geeky Bride doesn't have the same ring.
We might have to renew our vows later.
Yes.
Why did they leave Leaky behind?
They wanted to Leaky came from Leaky Cauldron from Harry Potter, and they had a lot of other fandoms who were coming in, and I'm actually co-chairing the lit track there this year, so it's going to be a much wider, more inclusive of other fandoms.
Well,
but
I will say that in the I worked for Borders for a long time, and we worked with all the Harry Potter blogs and all the people who were doing podcasts at the time. And Leaky Cauldron was one of them. And it is amazing to see some of these people now moving into much broader worlds. They've taken that. And it did the same thing that we saw with Stephanie Myers, the whole band of folks that started with that. It's just they grow into other things and they keep doing more.
That's the power of YA and middle grade.
Yeah, man.
I mean, you get them young. Start your own cult.
It's a huge.
So you have your children. That's
so you're
really
married
the
now.
message. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like a third wheel even more now.
Okay. So what I wanted to talk to you about was I follow your Tumblr.
Thanks. That legitimizes all of the time that I spend on Tumblr.
That is true. No, I find a lot of good music through your Tumblr. But I have a question that's unbook related, and then we'll go into the meat of the subject. But how do you avoid getting speeding tickets? Is my question. Because I just got my first one when I was 16.
I read about that on Twitter.
Yeah, that was
How did you accomplish this? She got a speeding ticket in LA. How is this
Ventura.
possible?
I was going up the coast.
I don't understand how it's possible.
Road
I
was
was
wide
there
open.
in the Camaro, and I think I went 50 the entire way.
I was not going 50.
I understand from the speed that you posted on Twitter, there's no way that you get out of that speeding ticket.
Well, the cop was behind me apparently for 3 miles before I noticed him, but at the speed I was going, that's not a very long time. No. But cars actually come into Raven Boys. You put that passion in there, the Raven Cycle, which I am loving.
Thank you.
I actually started with the Scorpio races, which is one of my favorite, not just
the book of my heart.
Books. I think you feel that. Like, it is a beautiful book, and I rec it to everybody. Recommend it, not wreck it. And I'm curious about like what made the Raven Cycle the next step of Scorpio races.
When I was a kid, I used to read everything that my father gave me. Well, first I read everything my mother gave me because she started out with these wonderful old award-winning fantasies with stickers on them. They were good for you. It was C.S. Lewis. It was Madeline L'Engle. They were amazing, and I loved them. And I thought, I want to write that. And my father would give me his hand-me-down thrillers that were always called things like Shot in the Back and Point Blank, and they always had a picture of like
Ken Follett, or was it
like a gun thing involved?
There was a lot of Jack Higgins involved.
Okay. Trying to
get a feel. Involved like a middle-aged guy on the back wearing a leather jacket and posing with a golden retriever or an AK-47.
A golden retriever.
Yeah,
the most deadly animal.
Exactly. And I also loved those. I didn't care that they were terrible. And so I always thought the perfect book would be combining those.
And you kind of have.
And that's what Blue is.
Yeah.
So that's
Wait, you
the
did
Raven
that very
Cycle.
well, actually.
I know, I've had some practice.
Yeah, I have.
But the fourth book, The Raven King, we get next year.
Yes.
Yes, in January, I want to say.
March.
That's
a different month.
Yeah, it is a different month. And what can we expect? Without spoilers,
Without spoilers, there's 2 kisses, which is notable because...
Long kisses, short kisses,
I'm not telling you anything. It's notable because, as you know, in this series, there actually have been no kisses, as Blue has always been told that if she kisses her true love, he'll die, which puts a damper on it.
You should show restraint.
And so I have enjoyed that Shiver, which was my first really big YA, it was full of kissing. All it was kissing. Yeah. And so in this series, there's been no kissing whatsoever. And so I feel
a lot of tension, though.
Yes. So that finally comes to fruition. Okay. There's kissing, there's death, there's cars.
Possibly in rapid succession.
There's more electric cars in book 4 than have ever been in any of the other books.
Electric cars?
Yes.
I
so we're all
Actually,
moving.
that is
Not
notable
much,
because
you.
I actually apparently am having a drag race with John Green
In
at
his electric car?
NerdCon in his electric car. So
What will you be driving?
I will be driving my Mitsubishi, which is the opposite of an electric car. Actually, the
He's going
environment
to
weeps
lose.
gently.
Does he know that
a
he's
little
going
bit.
to lose?
Everyone has told him online. I don't know. We'll see.
I wonder if he
We'll
has
see.
a secret. Like he has like a secret nitro pack in the
The
in the car.
Teslas have those insane buttons.
That's right. I think it should be like the Fast and the Less Furious. Will be. You should just promote it. You should get Vin Diesel to come and like and run the race.
You should come. Good times.
Now Pip Bartlett.
Yes.
Totally different thing.
Yes. Well, I have 2 children. They're 9 and 10. And so I wanted to write books that were for that age group. And I also wanted to collaborate with my friend Jackson Pearce. She loves animals as well. What would they really want to read? And it's this book. And so it's about a girl who can talk to magical creatures. No one else can talk to them. And her aunt is a vet for magical creatures. And so after a unicorn incident, she goes to spend the summer with her. And you can tell it's a Maggie Stiefvater book because although Pip has no angst and terrible things happen to her, there is a flaming pickup truck, so at least there's that.
That's
that
the
tie-in.
tie-in. Yeah, the Easter egg for
Yes,
fans.
exactly.
It's interesting that it's her aunt's clinic because I couldn't help but notice, Blue lives in this house full of ants.
Yes.
It actually reminded me a lot of Practical Magic and Alice Hoffman. I like that you're creating these kind of little pockets of women, raising women with magical powers.
This is a secret, but I'm going to tell you now.
Tell me.
I was kind of raised by creepy women.
Fantastic.
All of the women in my family are somewhat creepy. In fact, my sister is so creepy. She's 10 years younger than me. Before anything important, we will call her up and say, is there anything that we should know about the upcoming trip? And then she will give you some
I
creepy...
need you to clarify, because
What?
there's a lot of ways
Creepy in
for
a
people to be
good way.
creepy.
Yeah, eerie.
Like gothy?
No,
Like-
she wears flowered prints. That's not
Feral?
gothy. No, feral.
I'm
no.
trying, there's a lot of
So
kinds
she-
of
I'm
creepy,
thinking
right?
creepy as in like freaking you out kind of thing.
Like
Yes,
she jumps
that
out
is
from behind
exactly-
doors, or she serves you.
That is a very
raw meat.
narrow.
I'm trying to get
Are you describing me or are you
I don't
describing
know.
creepy?
Like how the heck did she know that kind of thing? or
Yes, that's
something?
exactly it.
Oh,
Unsettling.
unsettling.
Yes.
Yes, so for instance, I bought that race car when I was having my midlife crisis, and I did a couple of national races, and when I was going to one of the rallies, she said, by the way, you might want to, I don't know, something about wheels, like the left front wheel, and I said, yeah, my car has one. She goes, well, I wouldn't count on that.
Not for long.
And so we packed an extra wheel to go along with it. And so we went through a stage. We went sideways through one of the stages right into a rock, and the race would have been over because we
Holy
destroyed it.
moly.
But we had an extra wheel in the back because of creepy sister. So
The
I
medium.
feel like she's valuable sister, less
Yes,
than
exactly.
creepy sister. That's
creepy and valuable are
the
not
weird
opposites.
sister. Yeah,
Yes, weird sister.
weird sister.
So what was it like though working with Jackson Pearce? I'm really curious because you've written this world, it's your world, and you've got to shape it like you wanted
Yes.
with both the Shiver and then with the Raven cycle. And now you're doing this thing where you are sharing your brain with someone else and kind of collaborating. I'm curious how that change has been for you.
I never understood people who collaborated, to tell you the truth. I've never been a big group project person. However, this project appeared really organically. I had just done book 2 in the Spirit Animals series, which was giving me a world. It was like writing an
Right.
episode in a television series. So I
Yeah.
had no control. And so we were talking about what we would do if we had all the control. And instead it became this thing where we were sharing, throwing ideas back and forth, and just writing the most delightful thing we possibly could. It's so much faster than writing on your own. Normally when you get stuck, you have to sit there, you have to drive, then you get speeding tickets
It
in
happens.
California. And it takes time. Instead, though, I would just throw it to Jackson. She would throw it back to me. And so it's a really fast, satisfying process. There's
Yeah.
none of the frustration.
Is it going to be a series?
Yeah, there's going to be 3.
Okay. And now that you've collaborated, would you do it again?
It would be a very particular person. I get along really well with Jackson, creatively.
And
so
you
it
have a
has to be,
similar
yeah.
sensibility, things
Maybe
you
you and I just
I
don't
see
know,
something
man.
right here. I see like a Fast and Furious with your speeding ticket now. I see
Right.
sort of a Fast and Furious for women, which
the-
there's a place for this right
Did
now.
you see that face? I foresee
Fast and
actually
Furious is
slapping.
for women.
But I'm
By
saying
the way.
like
You don't
super
put
fast.
The Rock and Paul Walker and Vin Diesel in a movie with a whole bunch of
Of
fast
course,
cars.
of course, but you guys will be driving now, though.
I
You
see
know.
your point. I agree.
I don't know anything about cars, so I would just be like color commentary. But I also think it's interesting because there are people who you really like, but it's sort of like there are people who you love but you wouldn't go on a road trip with, or you wouldn't
It's
room
very
with
true.
them. So it's dangerous.
It's
a
very true.
dangerous
Can you
thing.
imagine co-writing with anyone?
That's a hard question. Because if it's somebody I really admire, I would be like, just tell me more stories. That's not going to do anything. And if it's somebody who you don't admire, what's the point?
And it really was an organic idea. I mean, it came out of both of our brains. I don't think if you'd asked me before that moment, are you going to co-write a book? I would have said, I work alone and always in black.
I work alone.
Yeah.
Like Batman.
Exactly.
But I also know your process is very different from mine. It's more similar to Lainey's in that you told me once that you read over everything that you wrote the night before.
I do.
And you perfect kind of the first part of the book before you move on.
That's true. Do you creepily catalog all of my processes, or
I do. I actually just listen when you're on panels and take copious notes.
Legitimately, is that legit creepy?
That's legit creepy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in your cupboards. They're very spare.
It's true. We work in very much the same way.
Yeah, and
although
I don't.
Jackson is more of an outliner, it's been good. We've learned things from each other.
Oh, that's cool.
Also, it's my first illustration credit. That is very exciting.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Before my first illustration credit, I was actually a full-time portrait artist before I was an author.
And you did equestrian art as well, right?
It's true, but when the economy went south, no one was buying horse portraits. So mostly I just painted copies of the old masters with the heads of cats on them.
Nice.
And sold them on eBay.
I made a living.
I wouldn't mind
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Very nice.
And when you say you were a portrait artist, was this like somebody who works on the pier? Or was it like somebody who was called to the homes of the wealthy to paint oils?
It was the latter.
Ooh. Yeah. Did you meet any jerks?
No, but the worst commission, can I say this on television?
Yes, we're live streaming, so it's not really TV.
The worst commission was actually an ugly baby. Because what are you going to do, right?
Ugly baby?
It was an ugly baby.
So
and
what
so
did
I
you
always
do?
go there to take my own reference photos and meet the subject, because you're trying to capture more than a photograph. If it's just a photograph, you don't need an
So
artist.
they open up the swaddling and you're like,
And she wanted two of them in different poses, and I arrived and I thought, Jesus! And I thought, well, I convinced her that one of them could be, can I say this? If you're watching, I'm so sorry. I hope he grew out of it. I convinced her that one of them should be his back turned, playing in the sand. I thought, look, that's adorable as a child. And the other one, she was kind of cradling his face so it was away from the camera.
it was very diplomatically done.
I agree. I thought they were very tasteful, but I hope he grew into.
Oh, he will, because that's what happens. It'll be in like a Calvin Klein commercial before long or something.
Probably.
Like, let me tell you about the lady who traumatized me.
And it wasn't like you could turn it down. You had to pay the rent, and so
to paint the ugly
that was
baby.
the worst. I appreciate my art that I can do now.
Honest portrayal of an ugly baby. You have to do it.
I think that should be the title of your memoir. You have to paint the ugly baby.
It's going to be Drive It Like You Stole It. No, everything must go, the Maggie Stiefvater story.
I like that.
It's better.
Now, after the Raven Cycle,
Yes.
and you're going to be in Pip Bartlett world for a while, are we going to see more young adult from you?
I am working on a standalone young adult now, and then I also have outlined my first adult novel,
Exciting.
which is kind of like a Fast and Furious for women,
There you
with magic.
All right.
I
Is The
felt it
Rock in
coming.
it?
I felt it
That's really
coming.
all I care about.
No.
Can you put him in it?
Yes.
Excellent. Just for me.
I think there's going to be a lot of people excited about both, and I think your audiences are going to move between them too. And I'm excited though that your your children have something to read now as well.
They are as well. I'm a hero among them now.
That's right. And we're going to move on because we have Rochelle Mead
All right.
coming on. Just a little bit about Maggie. How cool to see you again.
It was great to
really
see you
nice.
again.
And Leigh, and you guys have such a nice thing. There's another thing where I'm just like, you guys go. This is good.
You don't get to sit and talk very often.
No, I know. It's
It's
for
true.
sure.
It's
That's
true.
for sure. So nice to have you again. Thank you so much. Yeah.